Let me mention a couple of things here. We kept the children in, it's the first Sunday of the month and so forth, and they'll see more of these videos because these are going to go on for a while yet. What do we as parents do with our children, and how do we explain this kind of stuff to them and so forth? You need to talk to them and get them prepared for the future. We have no guarantees we won't be put into severe persecution before we get out of this world. We have no guarantees Jesus is coming soon. And the direction it's going is really not good. I'll just mention it. We're not going to show it. It's so... I showed Matt. Did you see it? I showed my boys and I showed Matt, and Mary said, I don't want to see it. I explained it. I don't want to see it. There's a video online of a live execution of about 10, maybe 12 men, and the only reason they're executing them is they're Christians. We're in a Muslim, doesn't say where it's at, we're in a Muslim country, obviously, and you got all these Muslim guys there, some with pistols, some with rifles. The guys are all lined up, kneeling, and they're doing their emotional tirade, and they show it. Boom, 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 they go down the line and execute them. And then for about 30 seconds, they just unload their weapons into these guys. They're already dead. They shot them in the head. They're already dead. They just unload their weapons, just screaming and yelling and anti-Christian stuff. This is happening in the world now. What makes us think we're going to get totally out of this? So what do? Begin preparing your children for the fact that at some point they may have to make a choice. And it's never too young to tell them this. We look back and laugh, and I'm going to tell a story on the boys. Mary keeps cautioning me, don't tell anything about our family. Well, sometimes the best examples come out of the family. So I'm going to tell a story on the boys when they were little. We come downstairs one time. They were in a bedroom together. We come downstairs one time, and we're hearing screaming going on in there. And then all of a sudden, oh, that hurt. And it's like, what in the world's going on? Well, they're in there, and they got, remember when the big old Tonka trucks, the metal ones, when they made trucks that were still trucks? So they're on the bed. One's laying on the bed. They can't protect themselves. They got their arms out, and the other one's standing up in the bed holding the Tonka truck up saying, deny Christ. Deny Christ. And if you don't, I'm going to drop the Tonka truck. I won't deny. Boom. Oh! Well, where did they get that from? They got that from Mom and Dad. We were talking about end time stuff. And stuff could be coming. So they were getting ready. And it's like, boy, my hat's off to them. They were doing good. Let me mention a couple of things in the video, and then we'll dismiss for anybody who needs to go. He's approaching this from some directions I have never heard before. And it's really refreshing because some of the stuff that has been traditionally taught makes no sense. It's like, can't figure it out. But it's the only thing that was taught, so I've taught some of it. Even though it's like, I don't see how that's going to work, but whatever. For instance, the four nations, Britain, Germany, Russia, the big one, Russia, and then the 10 horned. Never heard that explained that way before. That's something different. Which brings up something here. Let me touch one more. Germany, he just touched that this morning. It has traditionally been taught the Antichrist will receive the deadly wound. The man, attempted assassination on him. He will be killed or nearly killed, and then he'll be brought back to life or brought back into power, and he will have been the one with the deadly wound. I have never heard it put that way. Never. So that's really good. It's challenging. It's really good. But now there's a point I want to bring up here that you need to be aware of. And this is something with Irvin Baxter, how he interprets the book of Revelation. And if you haven't caught it, I'm going to point it out to you. He is not interpreting the book of Revelation from chapter 4 and Revelation forward, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to the end of the book. He does not interpret that as all future events. That's the way it's traditionally been taught. Revelation 4, verse 1 and 2, the rapture or the catching of the way of the church, and then verse 3 forward for the rest of the book, that's all going to happen in the last 7 years. He is not coming from that perspective. He is already taking things from chapter 13 of Revelation, like he did this morning, and applying them to stuff that happened 20, 30, 40 years ago. So he's opening it up like we are already living out the book of Revelation. Just catch that, because he's going to continue to do that. And it's a huge departure from traditional end-time teaching. I think it's a good departure, because nobody knows for sure anyway, and it really makes us think. So I think it's a good departure. But if you need to go, be blessed, have an awesome day. Father, protect, keep watch over us. Help us not to be a complacent people, a people who we just accept whatever comes and whatever's happening. Help us, Lord, to be stirred by your Spirit like the founders of this country were stirred by you, willing to take a stand on things, specifically righteousness things. And Lord, encourage us in that, and help us encourage people around us who we have influence on in that. It's still a democracy. We can still have a voice be known. And Lord, with your help, change can still take place. So we're asking for that. We're asking for blessing. Watch over the people in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. We will open up for questions and answers. If you need to go, feel free to do so. If you want to hang around, we'll chat here for a little while. Need to get it on recording, so we'll have to have it on mic. So, Dean, could you do me a favor? Well, let's use the ushers. That's what they're for. Gene. I'll have you run around with the mic. Anybody who's got a question or whatever, get them the mic, and we'll go from there. So just raise your hand if you got a question or a thought. Okay, one right behind you. We'll start there.
I had two. Well, I'll just pick one. In Daniel 7:4, he talks about the wings coming out of the lion, the eagle's wings coming out of the lion. And to me, when I read the verse, I felt like it suggested that the wings stood up, that the lion is what stood up on two legs and was given the heart of the man. But he seemed to interpret it as the wings became a man, or stand up. It didn't make sense to me, and I wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was with you on that. I didn't fully understand what he was trying to say. Maybe someone else did. Daniel 7, verse 4, the first was like a lion and had wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted up from the ground so that it stood on 2 feet like a man, and the heart of a man was given to it. He didn't really touch the last part of that verse. He didn't give his input on that. He did talk about the wings being missing, being torn off in Revelation 13.
But then he said the wings are what stood up and was given a heart.
Yeah, and it doesn't say that. It says that the lion, and it was lifted up. First was like a lion, and it had wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted up from the ground. Maybe he's interpreting the wings as the it. I would interpret the lion as the it, though, because the original thought there is the lion, and it stood on 2 feet like a man. Maybe he's interpreting the wings as that. I would go with the lion, though, myself, personally. Okay, you got to follow up on that same thought? Or is it a different thought?
I guess it's kind of just about the
Okay, we'll come back to you then. Go ahead, Roy.
years ago when I was looking at this, and I was
Can you grab another mic? I think the batteries are dead on that one. They're in that top middle drawer. There's no light.
oh, there, got a light. It's off.
Oh, it was off? Does that one have a green light or a red light when you hold the button? Give that one to him. This one's red, so it might be going dead.
I was taught that the Antichrist was going to come out of the European community, and where the 10-nation confederation was the the European community, and that somehow the Catholic Church was going to be also involved with that. And he alluded a little bit to that last week. Now keep that thought and go to this one. I've also been taught just recently that the 10 nations could also represent the revived Roman Empire. But
Yep.
if you look at what's happening in the world today, around the North Rim of Africa and through the Middle East, there's about 10 nations of Muslim countries that are banding together. And there's a prophecy that says that the Antichrist is going to come out of Syria or Turkey. Now, I know he hasn't talked to that yet, but do you understand where I'm
Yes.
coming from?
Yes.
Can you address those two issues?
I don't want to go ahead too far. He will address it.
Okay.
He stands pretty firmly with the revived Holy Roman Empire, going back to it being birthed with Charlemagne about 800 AD. The concept there, the Holy Roman Empire, is a combination of governments and Rome, or the Catholic Church, the Pope, them working together. He still feels that it's going to come out of Europe, out of those nations, because those are the nations the Bible's speaking of. Now, if he's got the interpretation correct on Germany, Russia, Great Britain, could it be those three are going to join with 10 that you're talking about? Because on the last picture, you've got 7-headed beast. So there's 10 horns, or 10 nations, 10 kingdoms that are not listed. We don't know who they are. What I find very interesting in that, let me finish the thought first before I go to my interesting thought. Almost had a ADD moment there, squirrel. So it is very possible that rim around the Mediterranean, or that chunk, Egypt, Libya, that whole realm, could be a big chunk of the 10 nations who join with Britain, Germany, and Russia. Now, what I find interesting is this. China's not in this. And we've got a fourth of the Earth's population not joined with this. The U.S. is not in this. South America is not in this. According to Bible prophecy, there's big chunks of the world who are not joining with this unless they join under those 10 horns, which I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think so, for this reason. The 10 horns are depicting lesser powers. The big powers are depicted by the heads, the lion, leopard, and bear. The 10 horns are depicting smaller kings who come up, and the Antichrist comes up from among them and knocks 3 of them out and takes their place. Again, we're looking in the future. We don't know for sure. But for the Muslim world, the Arab world, to accept a world leader and submit to it, he has to carry their blood. I mean, I can't see it any other way.
Well, I thought it was rather significant.
Mike? Thank you, Gene.
You know, just recently in the news, this ISIS program going on in Iraq and Syria, they've already declared a caliphate. And I thought,
You caught
wow.
that.
I thought there's something going on there that's going to be.
Do you remember the exact wording? They just announced Islam. Mike, we're going to run around with mics. Dave, could you help me with another mic? We'll position to you. We'll see how long this battery lasts.
A caliph was, okay, if you go back to 101 Arabian Nights or 1001 Arabian Nights, the caliph was the religious leader over all of the other Arab kings. So they ruled over all. So the caliph, everybody else paid homage to the caliph. So all those nomadic tribes would bring homage to him and things like that. So
He announced himself.
caliph. And he says, now I am the religious leader, and I'm standing in the place where this is my seat of power. It had been Iran's seat of power. Yeah. And now he's saying that he's going to bring in all of the Arab states and Turkey and Syria. And by the way, Turkey was part of the Holy Roman Empire. So so he could still be part of that. But yeah, it's significant, and I don't think that people get it.
And this thing with ISIS and what's happening right now, this is really big in end time stuff, because if Iraq goes back, like under their rule, well, now we've got old Babylon, because old Babylon, Iraq was the heart of old Babylon. Now we have that possibly being an influence here. So this whole thing that's happening right now, this is really big in end-time prophecy, and how it's going to shake out, and what our posturing is as a nation, the world, what is the world going to posture like, etc. Anybody else? Okay, we got one there and there. And there? No.
So I may have actually missed this while I was kind of typing up a note there. But coming from a background probably like most of us, where we're taught that, from Revelation 4 on is it's all future and pre-trib and all that stuff, which there's a lot of verses that say otherwise. But at any rate, when he talked about the head being slain and the dragon healing it, or I can't remember the exact words here, but he mentions that the whole world was amazed and worshipped it, saying who was like the beast. And I guess to me, when he was explaining it like the Third Reich and the Berlin Wall and that stuff, maybe I missed some of those details there, but I obviously when the Berlin Wall came down, it was pretty big news, but I don't recall anybody being anything more than just like, wow, what a great thing. I had a tough time with that connection being just about that, being not a future thing.
Okay, so let's look at Revelation 13, where he was coming out of. Verse 1, I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns, 7 heads, 10 crowns on his horns, and each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear, mouth like that of a lion. Dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and his great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was astonished and followed the beast. Men worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and they also worshipped the beast and asked who is like the beast, who can make war against him. The beast, remember, is not representative of the Antichrist. It's representative of the one world government who the Antichrist will be directly plugged into. So don't confuse the beast with, well, that's the Antichrist. No, the beast is the one world government who the Antichrist is ruling over. So it's like, I can see where that misunderstanding comes from. Well, that's the Antichrist. No, the Antichrist is nothing without a one world government. He's not going to have much power. He has to have a governmental platform to operate off of. The beast is referring to that platform that he becomes involved and operates off of. Now, the one thing that is big here, and again, this is up to interpretation, and he's coming from a different direction. If the direction he's coming from in those verses, we're covering a big span of time, and it's kind of jumping back and forth.
That makes sense.
And the fatal wound that had been healed, one of the heads, verse 3, one of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound that had been healed. So if he's right, he's saying, okay, that's Germany. Germany was divided, and that was the wound, and then the wound was healed. Berlin Wall came down, Iron Curtain came down, and now Germany's restored, and everything's great and wonderful. And then it goes on again to the one world government, and the dragon gave no, my mistake. Fatal wound was healed, verse 3, the end of it. And the whole world was astonished and followed the beast. Well, how many, or the one world government, that platform? Well, how far ahead do we have to go before that takes place? He's sloshing some in the years here.
Sure.
But the question I have is this. The media, and this is intentional, the media keeps the average American so dumbed down to what's really going on behind the scenes.
For sure.
The question I have is how much world perspective decisions are being made now that we are not aware of. Yeah. You know, I doubt this is going to be an overnight, one-day thing. Yesterday it was the United States of America. Tomorrow it's a one-world government. It's like everything else. It has to transition.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess it could be a a dual fulfillment thing as well, and that time gap there.
Yep.
That helps a lot. That makes a lot of sense.
So that's how I understood him saying it. There's a slosh of time here. Okay, Dan had a question or a thought or something.
It's more of a thought than anything. I think it was in his first film, the first part of it last week. He mentioned and he used the word that this is inevitable.
Yeah.
Okay, and it is.
Now let me touch on something you said there. The inevitable part. Yeah, the Bible prophesies inevitably one world stuff's coming. Here's what I'm concerned about. That we think it's coming sooner than it's coming, and we're selling our nation out. As Christians, we're just sitting back in this nation going, well, Jesus is going to come anyway, it's end times, what can you do? And literally we're letting this nation be sold out right from underneath our feet because we've gotten complacent, sleepy, drugged, whatever. We've got the tolerant thing that's been preached at us long enough that a bunch of us believe it. And now universalism and pantheism is really being shoved at us. And I don't want to steal Irvin's thunder because he's going to deal with the Catholic Church in the future. But what the Catholic Church is doing right now scares me. What is happening and what they're trying to pull off right now, this scares me not because of what they're trying to do. It scares me because how is the world going to respond to this? And where are they taking this? This is purely pantheism, which is let's just bring all gods together and we all love the same being and da-da-da-da-da. And universalism, which means all religions lead to heaven. All religions lead the same place. And we're being shoved that direction. Our children are flat out being taught to tolerate everything, including by some of us. I mean, Christians are teaching their children and grandchildren, well, some people like to live that way, and our job is to love them. Well, I agree with that. But love without truth is not love.
Exactly. Amen.
And truth without love is not truth. So you've got to speak the truth in love, like it says in Ephesians 4. But our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, I don't know how long this will go. I'd love it if Jesus came tomorrow, but I don't think he is. And our future lineage has got to have what the past generations had, which is, if I have to die by the sword, I'm going down by it. Our future lineage is already geared for. Don't worry about it. Everybody's going to heaven anyway. Why should you take a stand and cause problems? And they're going to be deceived, and they're going to end up my lineage could end up in hell if they're not being prepared generation by generation by generation. And this trucking in of people thing, I'm going to give you my theory on that. This is happening big. We're trying to get all these people into this country. And all these people coming into this country, the greatest majority of them get on the government roll. They are being supplied for financially and housing and everything by the government. This is a state, this is my opinion, this is not scripture, this is me talking. This is a staged plan to take the voting population a specific direction. Because people will not vote away their benefits. And if you can get enough people on the government dole handout system, they will vote whatever way. Whoever's going to say, we will keep you taken care of, they will vote that direction, and there goes, in reality, America. Because now they're going to put people in who are going to go whatever way keeps their paycheck coming. This is all a plan that's been going on for years. But that's my opinion. Okay, we have Steve, and then we've got back over here, JP.
All right, so is the 10-horned beast different than the 7-headed dragon with 10 horns?
No,
okay.
It's just depicting the same thing from different perspectives.
Gotcha. So he goes with Germany as the 4 heads of the leopard.
Yep.
Haven't the 3 heads died for Charlemagne?
Yep.
Those are dead, but he counts them as part of the ones that have to be here for this to happen.
It's showing, from what he's saying, Germany is being depicted as having risen to power 4 times.
All right.
3 of them have already happened.
But he said the 7 heads need to be here in order for it to happen, like Russia.
Yeah.
But if the 3 are gone, how can they be considered part of the 7?
Well, they're still part of Germany's history. They're still part of who they are.
Okay.
You know, the German nation has not gone away.
Mm-hmm.
So the First Reich and the Second Reich and the Third Reich, that's all part of who we have today, who is going to set up, from what he understands, as the 4th head who is going to dominate somehow in this whole picture. But that is all part of that one nation. So even though those 3 aspects have been fulfilled, it's still that nation. It's still part of that nation.
So wouldn't it be one nation then, being it's...
Yeah, it's one nation. The last head is still to be revealed.
Okay.
First 3 have been revealed. See, you're trying to separate the thing out by the First Reich would have been a nation, Second Reich would have been a second nation. No, it's the same nation. The first head, First Reich, was Germany. The second head, Second Reich, which was World War I, was Germany. The third head, Third Reich, which was big in the World War II thing, was Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4th head, the Fourth Reich, which is still future, is Germany. It's still the same animal all the way through. Follow that? Don't try to divide them into different animals. Just see different phases of their history.
Mine's real quick on his same thing, because I was kind of confused by that, the 4th beast with the 10 horns, because he also said he believes that Germany is a part of that, and I think he said Italy and France, part of that revived empire. So how can Germany show up twice in the leopard and in the 10-horned beast?
The 10-horned beast is not Germany. Germany is the leopard, or the representation. See, there's the Revelation 13 is the combined beast of Daniel 7.
Right, but I thought he said last week that the 4th beast with the 10 horns, that Germany was a part of that.
It will be in the overall, the big picture that he shows, where you've got the 10-horned beast down on this side, the leopards up here, the lion down here, and the bear here. That's one big animal,
Right.
is the way he's depicting it. So Germany's part of it, but Germany's not the 10-horned beast.
Okay, what she's saying is Germany was also part of the Holy Roman Empire.
Oh, okay.
So if you give Germany one of the horns of the 10 beasts and you've got the 4-headed leopard, then
I don't think Germany's one of the
not.
horns. I go with Roy. I think the horns are yet to be revealed.
Even if it was, I mean, you're talking about a whole bunch of symbolism and a vision that
How do you explain
could
it?
be with the times that, they're not all
Yeah.
necessarily there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a quick comment on that complacent spirit that you were addressing a little bit ago. And without getting too theological here, one of the things I've found, like the more I study Scripture on my own rather than just listening to what the textbook says,
Yep.
I've found that the idea of the pre-tribulational rapture, which if you want to believe in that, go nuts, is what causes that spirit. And you know what?
The complacency.
Yeah, in all honesty, I hope that's what happens. I really hope we're not here.
I'm with
'cause
you.
I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I don't want to see my kids.
No.
I'm not going to keep talking that way. I'll lose it. But there's verses all over, even just in the stuff that we were reading about the Antichrist and the beast and the dragon and all that, waging war against the saints.
Yeah.
And blessed is the man who keeps on waiting, and all these other things that, enduring till the end. Just stuff that's all throughout the Word, that it's really something that is important that we prepare our hearts, because the devil's tool will be to have us off guard and make us all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, we were all wrong. Jesus isn't real. This guy is.
Yep.
And if we're expecting to go and to not be here for any of that and it happens, I promise you faith will be shaken.
Yep.
So, again, hopefully
Yep.
that's what happens, but let's not prepare for that.
Not prepare for that. That's where I'm at. That's my stance exactly. I hope it's pre-tribulation rapture. I'd be glad if it was tomorrow. But I am not preparing for that because I don't believe it's going to be. Okay, anybody over here? Okay, Dennis.
I had a comment about, we get caught up in these borders. Germany's here, all that kind of thing. I think there's a part of that. But Muslims live here in the U.S. There's a Muslim movement in here. It's not about just the borders. It's a spiritual thing. I don't know if you saw the video yet. I saw part of this series already. But he talked about democracy, communism, and their colors, right?
Socialism, yep.
So we don't want to get caught up in it. Okay, we see Germany as a leopard, and we see the wound. That country was reunited, so the wound has been healed. And that part of the European nation or the Holy Empire. There's two philosophies there. They combine at some point, or they're in agreement, but they're still a little bit separate. I think that's looking at people groups and philosophies, not physical borders.
Don't draw a line.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you can do it because then we get caught up into those kind of details. I think that throw us off. Another thought that I had was around my thoughts anyway. Sometimes tend to go to isolationism. So okay.
And that's not
I don't want to
good.
be a part of that. I
Yep.
don't want to be a part of this, so we have to isolate, and I think that's the wrong strategy. What is it, the Posse Comitatus? Is that one group? There's a couple other groups, you name them. Where are they? I bet we know about where they are, right? They self-isolated themselves. They corralled themselves. They're now an easier target.
Yep.
The United States, the federal government knows where these anti-government groups are because they isolated them. They caged themselves.
Anybody else got anything? All right. Have an awesome day. Be blessed.